we have the 3D visualization attempt to try and work out the mountain block between indigenous era versus the Turkic ra. While we share the same target of ra, here we are trying to build the valley that encourages passage for either side. We first travel down the passage of Era, indigenous pathway. There's a direct path towards the Ra. Now we backtrack to see where they came from as we both climb to the shared summit of E at the top, but my passage doesn't have this Era. I can only go Ra. I can only arrive at that destination through the I can't do it through the E. This is the wide scope to try and illustrate what's getting in the way of that, how the Australis non-rhotic R is a part of this picture, but we end up hanging over here, stop somewhere here, but the Turkic R actually needs to curl. One last note, this Australis non-rhotic R stops somewhere between this E and a kind of R that doesn't quite announce itself. Sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't. It's assumed to be there most of the time due to habits of patterns and expectations. You grow up with these sounds and you just are kind of brainwashed with the spelling in a certain convention. That's why you assume there's an R, but the E's aren't hearing how it's not being spoken. That's my experience through the Turkic portal. If Turkish words are not curling, I can't see them. I can't hear them at all. Despite the language being allegedly transparent compared to English with the Latin, it's not actually the case when the language of my ears never got a chance to do as it is in this Australis way where like beer, I just say B and people would assume, oh yeah, you spelled that B-I-R. Even though my mouth's saying B first. They're not quite saying first. That R just gets disappearmented. Yeah, that was me trying to be brief. I'll just post the background development notes on the other side of this.
Here I'm going to attempt to tackle the 3D articulation of the Ura versus Era roadblock. I have to create a new Era state for the indigenous tongue. This is my one, and let's just see where that takes us. Go to layout. So this here is what I perceived as the big mountain block. At what point does our commonality get shared at this level? I can't get from here to there. But this one is no through road. You shall not pass. Mountain block. This Ra is living on the other side of the mountain. Maya would be in the front of the mountain. So are they one and the same? In between the mountain we have a channel that is common. Let's just say we found a penetration through the Great Dividing Range or something. So we merged together here to show that it was just both of us. This ear does not belong. There's no passage. Why am I blocked? Here equals E. Issue is another factor getting in the way of that. That's why I need to confirm, is this actually correct? Is this accurate? I need to hear the sound. Let's just zoom the camera out. Just ignore this ear. There's no passage through. No way through for the ear. These are the forms getting ready to line up. That's the ear going on fucking belong. So we can now travel here. So we can go through the mountains. There's probably some bloody river or some valley. That's how we reach that Ra, where this ear belongs to another paradigm, but it's on this side. My perception of this belongs on the left. This ear comes from here. You guys are connected through there. And this perception of I could go this way, you could go that way, but somehow I'm also carrying it up here. I do feel as though there is another mountain ridge or something that might have caused this. I have to work out how did this also exist on this side as well. It's like I'm still blocked somehow. Let's make it sticky out so we can see. I do see these guys at a higher elevation point where if I try to have a mountain that is in between these two, yep, that works. This ear is at the top of that peak. This is more another type of a valley. These ears I picture as being a shared peak together. I had like a mountain up here. My ear stayed at top, stayed here, but your ear was able to, perhaps it just didn't have a mountain, but this has come from the same point to distinguish that's your ear and my ear. But in the meanwhile, we both share the ear, but in my passage, it's like it needs another mountain, so let's create another mountain. Yes. It's like you had a smooth channel, but for me it's like a block that sort of helps signal how my came through this way, whereas you guys had no you're blocked by the mountain here, so let's just move them. Your ability to see the is sheltered by this, you can't see it because of this block here, and you had a smooth thing from the common source of air. It was a smooth passage. I had a significant block. That's my attempt to illustrate flow where I can't do it on the two-dimensional paradigm. This is me trying to make sense of how is it that you guys were able to find smooth passage through era, because this ura doesn't exist in your universe. You didn't see the ura, so something was blocking you guys from the ura, whereas my passage from the era, although we both share an e, I was facing a block. So that's the best I could do. Let's just try to see how that animation flow will work. The story of how we both shared and let's just do the story of you first. Your story went this way. So yeah, we got whoosh down the slippery waterside. Here we are at the era where we're getting ready to end up into the era where this is your E from up there, which is a space we both shared. Like you went this side of the water slide and you went era. That was your flow through. But from this vantage point, you can't see the on the other side of it. This is working pretty good as an analogy. And so you went wee, and your momentum is going like this. You got no ability to see that because your target is that raw. Feels like a pinball cascade where certain forms in this environment encouraged you to end up here, and my language carries similar forms that encourage me to end up in the same spot as well. So let's just try to reverse and backtrack now. This is what my work is doing. It is trying to take a look at the landscape from a different angle, because you can do this in 3D, which is like, look at what's getting in the way of our perception of this. Makes sense. Beautiful sense. Now we gotta travel back. Do your passage first in reverse. Where we have to get back to the mountain peak again. Let's go back your way home. And now we do my passage. Let's see what that looks like. This feeling viscerally really cool and really right, making geological sense. Here we are at the peak, but my ear is swinging this way. This is my journey through the ear, which stays here. It didn't really have much of a chance, did it? Yeah, so it's like this one. It's a bit more horizontal. There's no cascade for ear. It can't roll. Yeah, that makes perfect sense. It's like a plateau. So that's why it hangs. There's no down drop for it to go cascade. It's like flat. I can see this like a plateau, and that's what could help explain why the ear is just hanging here. There's no momentum for it to, maybe it is like a mountain going up. It requires effort, so it's not flowing, it's staying. Something is encouraging this ear to remain where it is, where this one is rolling down. Alright, my passage. Okay, here is my ear. It just hangs around here, but we've got this great wall of something or other in my environment. No way through. Take a look at the landscape. The only way is I have to go like this. Let's just go donk, and then I'll reach the end of this range. But what's going on here? There's another throughway. It's just a natural. Yeah, let's go here and let's see what happens. And then we got more going on here. This is like the section of the part of the valley of the belongs here. And it's only a conceptualization that could only be understood in post by processing it through this 3D mountainside extravaganza. The land of existed somewhere here. And geographically, this is something that the eerie mob wouldn't be able to see. There's your block. There it is. Our ear isn't us. The is located here. So that's me going through the era, your way, and now I'm going to explore my way, which was up through here. Now this explains I can't see the era. This does a great job of showing that. Here we are at that point of commonality, getting ready to target that ra. This is the geography of the mouth architecture that made it so, and these formations come from mother tongue. That's what causes it. This is why when I hear the ra, we are sharing a common history that was passed down from our mothers and fathers and immediate community, essentially those who spent the most time with you between 0 and 4 as you're acquiring language. This is like, I guess, volcanic activity, huh? The lands are forming, huh? Alright, now this is us attempting your passage. Yeah, this is cool. And that's trying to go back to the ear. That's from my side, is then, yeah, that'll do. I'm happy with that as a first draft. This is one method to help me make tangible sense of why I couldn't see or hear you your way. An attempt to try and visualize the roadblock, how it feels, and it offers a beautiful way of looking at it that feels very close to me. This part here is my perception of you and me having the same kind of a mum, family, ancestor, and this part here is how your way and my way starts to diverge. This methodology, trying to illustrate it, is a whole lot more dynamic compared to former attempts in 2D, which were pretty crude. And when I did that initial you, me, and there's this big ocean block in the middle of it, it wasn't that simple. I think it's pretty evident the complicating factor is through this dynamic in here that would have caused something like that. I imagine there's more than one way to attempt illustrating or explaining it. I just know that when I see these sorts of figurines, these are creating navigational perceptions for me. This is how language acts as a type of guidance system, reflecting the shape of the environment that my language has traveled through. Where, let's say we're in the desert and we meet at this point, aspects of me will recognize you because we're both headed there. Like, let's say there's a water hole, looking for water. I know that the way to get there is through here. Your way is through here, but we've never seen each other before. So when we get to this point, what happens when both of us know we share a common need to get to the hole here? No capacity for you to see where I've come from, vice versa. The knowing is just so acute. There's no doubt. You already know what it is. That's the experience of recog. There'll be other shades of recog where, well, perhaps it's not going to be as acute, but the sense of familiarity, sometimes deja vu, type of sense of I've already been here before, I've already seen this before. Sometimes it's very scary because you can't believe how it's even possible, but it just is.
So now we have to backtrack to the issue of this ear, because an E, it can be this one as well, E, and this is where it becomes terminating, and I suspect the terminating R just has to be without the E or the Here we are now incorporating the story of E, which is the Australis. Tongue shares the same pathway with the non-rhotic R issue. R shall terminate here. This we, is the extension. From this point of the story, these guys converge together here. I would say this is a neutral meeting spot. We call that Mountain Orange R, and this one is Mountain Red R. Here we are converging neutral, and we're both headed for the same water hole. We're okay, we don't speak the same language, but both of us are headed to the water hole. You physically resemble my body, similar to other bipeds, because we're thirsty, so we're both sharing this ability to recognize the reason for a form that mirrors my own figure is because we're both sharing the common need. Let's go have some water together.
together. This is an attempt to try and explore how, in my language, I have an ear, but it terminates. If it does the ear, that's because there's a different channel for it, foreign adoption, so it's adopted the landscape from a different area, and that ends up changing my wider landscape. In order for me to reach here, where it has to finish, the plateau mountain range is even longer, blocking the R. And in the Australis tongue, there's actually no true throughway sometimes where we're not pronouncing it, so it's actually very long. Do you curl your R versus does it just stop and pause there? It's amazing how this is actually feeling very close to what happens in my mouth. Yeah, this is how it's very difficult to curl, and that's what causes the Let's just say there was an earthquake and that caused the shear. That's a possibility. BR. So that Y, hanging Y, travelling with this guy. Yeah. And then with the Y, it's going ER. That's why I've got the Y here. In order to reach the channel of R, our worlds apart line is between here, where we start as a common point, but between you and me, it's that universe line is somewhere here. This is at least one world's length apart. We both came out of the same volcano in the same kind of state. You were an ear, I was an ear. I went this way. Let's just assume you probably went that way. The reason why it terminates for me is because I've got to travel this distance just to get there, but your way doesn't carry that block, so you naturally can fall like that. That's where I need confirmation. Is this the actual case in your language? This is the level of articulation detail I need for clarification. When I say Wiradjuri'yin, that E, is it a true E, ra, or is it an A, ra, era? Or is it I need to confirm, are you falling this way naturally? Or are you actually curling towards that Y in your mouth? Or is it not through the E, but you actually are travelling through the A, this one? Now is not the time for the A, because the A would be living somewhere further elsewhere. We can revisit that another time. In the meanwhile, I just gotta get this imaginary division, your side versus my side of the volcano, sorted out. We're falling down this way, and you banged on a bar, you went that way and you fell through here. Me, my ear fell down, but it stayed there because this area is like a flat plateau, and perhaps I have to walk, and with slight elevation around here is like going up, so it's a lot of effort trying to reach this peak. I know there's a destination R, but in order to reach it, I have to go all the way, all this effort just to get the rolling R, whereas the terminating R just kind of sits at that peak and it stops there. It doesn't roll down. If it's a B, if I fall down beyond that point, it is an R. And that's where I have to think twice about. There's a reason why I had to signal there is an E stream and an UR stream plugging into this R. I have to keep track of that. In order for me to reach this water slide down the UR, I have to reach that R, I have to curl. And to do that in my mouth is really hard, very uncomfortable. I don't like it, so that's why I tend to just sort of get exhausted and stop somewhere between here and there. Let us go forth with the camera where we pretend we are a lemming falling down from the hatch door. What is that thing anyway? I ended up tumbling this way, so I have to get to this Mount R. Oh fuck, that's so far away. It's like, oh shit, I'll have to traverse the entire Great Wall of my China here. This is my China. Almost there. Oh man, I think that'll do. It's like that. Start again. Falling down like the lemming. We are falling down, and then let's mimic a crash. Oh, and then I have to get to the R all the way down there, but I can't tunnel through here, just cock blocked. So to get to the R, we must travel towards the almost there. When I see this, it's like, yeah, this needs to go. But I needed to see that as a reminder to myself
that reaching this point I came from the land of Ir, because I'm gonna have words that terminate with ur, and that's gonna also give insight to how the landscape in places like Uzbek is a bit different. That was necessary to signal this came from a land of Ir, a place of Ir, and terminated at that point. But in the Turkic stream, here I am gazing back to where I came from, the land of Ir. However, I really had to get to you over there. And this resting point kind of said, yeah, that'll do, pig, that'll do. But the reason why it won't do is because in English, I'm forced. It's because when they do that and they just sit somewhere between you and you, I can't actually see the R at all until it reaches there. And that's why my R has to, because when I hear that, I know I've actually arrived at the true end. Yeah, that's the story so far. And this is the journey of needing to curl, but from this sort of a position so that I don't fall down the ura. Wow, this is amazing. I'm okay with it. Pretty good visceral for me. The beginning of the story, me trying to find my place. Let's try to forge a valley towards the land of Ra. How does it work? Let's design the water slide for it. Alright. That's the era passage. Let's backtrack. Passage of era. And now we have to go ura. And then we're wide scoping and over to the land of Australis tongue where ir, the termination. The lemming drop. Ir. Non-rhotic R stays here, but the Turkic R needs to curl. Beautiful. Yeah, I'm thrilled. I can't believe how that accurately feels what it is in my mouth. Kind of contortion act it requires me to reach that. It's like Nadia Comaneci, where she's struggling to land with that solid hit on the floor and has to do that little step back to make it look as if she landed it perfect. Beautiful. I'm thrilled.
Bir şiir daha var, okuyayım mı? Yeter! Adım Ayşe! Gelirse!